Greetings and welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm glad you could be here. Before we begin, please take a moment to hit those like and subscribe buttons and maybe drop us a comment down below. It all helps feed the hungry algorithm. And while you're at it, maybe go ahead and check us out over on Patreon. Lots of cool stuff going on over there. Link is in the video description and at the top of my YouTube page. And before we get too much further, let me give a quick shout out to my Tier 4 patrons. Russ of the Frozen North, New 5AC, Nick, and Zachary Langmead. Thank you very much. Now, on with the story. The Deathworlders, a story by Philip R. Johnson, a.k.a. Hambone, Hambone HFY, and Hambone 3110. Chapter 23, Back Down to Earth. Date point, 10 years, 2 months, 2 weeks AV, HMS Charmin, HMNB Folktha, Folktha Cimbrean, The Far Reaches. John Burgess. It was a good movie night. Sometimes the guys wanted a good movie to counterbalance all the awful ones they liked to watch, and it was a good way to round off a mission day. The dorm was clean, they were all showered, and now there were a few hours of quiet time to lounge around in ranger shorts and watch something. Hence they were watching The Pink Panther, the old one with Peter Sellers. That had been the plan at least, right up until somebody had asked where Warhorse had got to, and John had tried to explain. "And you didn't think to tell him sooner?" Titan was asking, plainly angry.
"Man, when did I even have the chance?"
The movie was on pause, and the usual comfortable puppy-like pile on the couch was broken up into a standing argument. Sykes opened his mouth to comment, and John nodded in anticipation of what he was going to say.
Okay, yeah, lots of times, but come on, man, timing. We were all on the edge. Then, just as I was about to tell him, he went and proposed to her. And then, before he had a chance to get over that, we had the mission, and you should have told him, Titan asserted. "You're supposed to be our fucking brother, man, and you're lying to Horse of all people about his girl fucking around," Sykes agreed. Firth weighed in. "You two are the bromance of this outfit. How the fuck are you going to stand by and let Horse get jodied?"
"We're supposed to trust you with our lives," Blazinski added. That stung. It downright hurt, in fact.
"You know you can," John protested quietly.
"Do we? 'Cause if you can help Horse's girl suck some other asshole's skinny fucking dick..."
"Say what?" John rounded on Titan. "I didn't fucking help her."
"You let her keep doing it, didn't you?" Blazinski retorted.
"'Cause the alternative was ripping Horse's heart out of his fucking chest at exactly the wrong moment, man." John illustrated the mental image with the gesticulation. "We wouldn't have him if I'd done it before now. You think he'd have made it through without at least, the idea of her? And I'm not sure if I'd have made it through without him."
"You think it was a choice between this or no protectors at all?" Rebar checked.
John sighed and nodded. "Could be," he agreed. "Even Horse has his limits, man."
The three defenders exchanged quick glances, communicating silently.
"Tell me he was at least pissed at you," Firth demanded. "He was fucking furious, bro."
"Surprised he didn't tie your ass in a pretzel," Titan said. "Fuck, he's gonna have a face like Armageddon Landing when he gets back."
"Yep," John agreed.
"Yeah, well, you fucking deserve it," Sykes folded his arms.
"Come on, don't be like that. It's not like I did it to help her."
"But you did help her, though. Lads." Everybody looked at Murray. Murray was like that. You could completely forget he was there until he opened his mouth, and, softly Scottish though his speech might have been, everyone shut up and listened. Never mind that he was the smallest of the SOR's enlisted men, he commanded attention whenever he chose. "Let's just watch the movie." Everyone paused, then settled a bit. There was a round of nods and murmured agreement, and the guys all sat back down on the couch. Baseball was left standing.
Hey, let me in there," he ventured.
"Couch is full, John,"
Firth told him, not looking at him. "Dude, I was sitting right there a minute ago."
"Couch is full." John directed a pleading look, first at Rebar, who was avoiding eye contact, and then at Murray, who gave him a complicated facial shrug, which said quite clearly that he wasn't about to rekindle the argument by disagreeing that John was just going to have to put up with it. After a moment's hesitation, John settled for a resigned throat clear and sitting cross-legged on the hard, cold floor next to the couch, rather than wrapped up with his buddies. Didn't feel right at all, and not even Sellers' dignified on-screen antics could fix that. They watched in silence for a little while, even managing a collective chuckle at the exchange. "If I were my father, I'd have you tortured. If you were my father, I doubt very much that I would have kissed you." The tension seemed to be just about starting to dissipate, or maybe that was just wishful thinking on John's part, when there was a distant, muffled roar of some kind, and the whole building shook as if a bomb had gone off nearby. Huge, metal-framed and reinforced as it was, they still knocked the couch over and scrambling off it in alert for danger. "What the fuck?" Firth asked. "Sounded like it came from the gym." Murray aimed a thumb towards it. Shit, you don't think Adam..." He was left standing as the rest of them took off at a run. Waiting for them in the gym was a sight more disturbing than anything John had seen on Capitol Station or in training. Adam's jerry can was lying at the bottom of the wall at the far end of the gym from where it was usually kept and had burst open, spilling buckshot all over the floor. The wall itself had a crater in it about halfway up, where the cinder blocks had been smashed in by something very heavy hitting it with huge force. The 100-pound plates were all off their racks and scattered around the gym like schoolyard frisbees. The spring steel barbell at the deadlift station, the one commissioned especially for the protectors, had bent beyond hope of repair, and one at the squat rack was now roughly the shape of a hockey stick, and Adam was sitting in the middle of the floor, cradling his elbow and sobbing. Baseball was at his side in a flash. "Oh, man, brother, Oof!" The air rushed straight out of him as he felt a stab of pain in his ribs, and he found himself caught in the kind of crushing bear hug that might have pulped an alien and badly hurt most humans. There was nothing to do but put his own arms around his best friend's huge shoulders and hold on, rocking him back and forth. The guys all left him to it and found stuff to do. Murray, Firth, and Blazinski set about cleaning up the gear, while the defenders gathered round the damaged wall and held a hushed consultation with one another. Just as the last of the plates were being racked up, Rebar sidled over and gave John a tap on the shoulder. "Dude, that was a structural wall he busted," he whispered. "We kinda need everyone out of here while we make it safe." John nodded at him, then gave Adam's back a hefty pat. "Hey, horse, man, we gotta move, okay? Come on, let's get you something to eat." Adam nodded against his chest and asked in the most childish tone that John had ever heard him produce, "Can I have Eggos?" Everyone had to pause to look at one another. Despite the broken wall, Adam Aries, Mr. Nutrition himself, the best cook on the team, and Eggos? Those were just two concepts that didn't go together, and now is not the time to argue. "Sure, brother, sure. All the Eggos you want, man. Come on. I'll sort that elbow out while they're cooking." "Okay." Date point. 10 years, 2 months, 2 weeks, 1 day, AV. Folktha, Cimbrean. The far reaches. Charlotte and Ben had landed on their feet with the move to Cimbrean. As the only qualified midwife in town, not only was Charlotte busy, but she was well paid. Ben, meanwhile, had quickly and easily fallen in with the city planning department and had been instrumental in devising an approach to utility infrastructure that should hopefully mean that Folktha's roads would never need to be dug up to access the sewerage, cables, and pipes that ran alongside rather than beneath them. Cheap housing, decent salaries, and rapid promotion? Folktha was a graduate's fantasy. Except when it resulted in Charlotte's best friend slumped inconsolable over a kitchen table, of course. There was little they'd have been able to do for Ava except keep up a steady supply of tea and comforting words and contact. Eventually, she sent Ben and Sean on a walk to get some takeaway from the good Chinese place on the far side of town that didn't deliver. That earned her an hour of alone time for some girl talk. Ava certainly seemed to appreciate it. At least, she muttered, Thanks, as soon as they were gone. Darling, you're going to have to come up for air sooner or later, Charlotte told her. It had the desired effect. Ava laughed, a thin, delicate, slightly hysterical laugh, but a laugh nonetheless, and finally unburied her face from her arms. Instead, she rested her elbows on the table and combed her fingers through her hair. Sorry for being upset. I think you have a right. It's my own stupid fault, though, Ava sighed. Her hands dropped to the table, and she sat back to stare up at the ceiling instead. What was I thinking? Which bit? Huh? The bit where you did it, or the bit where you got caught? God, I don't know. Ava looked around the room. I don't know. The clock ticked for them a good 10 seconds or so before she sagged and gave Charlotte a pleading look. What do you think? Charlotte took her hand. You know, that's the first time you've asked for my opinion in this. It is? Yeah. Oh. Ava blinked at her hands. You'd have told me not to do it, wouldn't you? I would have, Charlotte agreed. Why didn't you? You didn't ask, Charlotte gave her an apologetic facial shrug. And I don't think you would have listened either. Ava paused, then nodded and shut her eyes. You know why I did it, though, right? Darling, you did it because you were lonely and horny, and Sean's hot and caring, and he's a good match for you, Charlotte asserted. Don't overthink it. But that's just the problem, Ava exploded, tugging her hand out of Charlotte's grip to gesticulate. I didn't think about it enough, or at least I thought about it trying to... She gripped her hair again. I don't know where I went wrong. Maybe the bit where you cheated on your boyfriend, Charlotte suggested. Not unjustifiably, Ava glared at her. No, darling, maybe it really is that simple. Maybe you should have either asked him for permission or broken up with him first. Treated him honestly. You're taking his side? Ava asked. You're not? Ava hesitated, then swallowed, sighed, and rubbed her face. I'm sorry, she said. You're right. I should have. He said it himself. He was separated from me, too. Working relationships are about honesty, Charlotte told her. If you ever have to hide something, if you ever have to lie about something, maybe it's not working. Ava nodded miserably. And it wasn't working for a long time, right from the moment he decided to sign up, she said. Don't blame him, Charlotte cautioned. I don't. He was doing what he had to, but I should have told him then that I wasn't happy with it. Maybe if I'd done that... Ava sighed and then shook her head slowly. It's done. Can't change it. I can't bring it back, just like I can't bring Sarah back, or home, or anything. I wish I could, but I can't. So, what are you going to do? Ava flapped her arms in a resigned shrug. Move on. I can't stay here. Not with Adam and Gabe. I won't be able to... She paused, exasperated by her own lack of eloquence, then stood up. The boys will be back in, an hour? Give or take, Charlotte agreed, as Ava shrugged her coat on and headed for the door. Why, what are you... I'm going to say goodbye to Dad. Date point. 10 years, 2 months, 2 weeks, AV. Byron Group Exploration Vessel 8. Creature of Habit. The Border Stars. Proximal End. Kevin Jenkins. Hey, Jenks, we're coming up on RS-449. The Byron Group had sunk billions of dollars into starships, and the first few had all gone missing, as had the ones sent to find out what happened to them. Byron Stellar Exploration's working theory was that they had all suffered some kind of technical failure, and as such the group's starship building program was on hold until they figured out what that failure might be. Number 8, therefore, was a Dominion-built vessel, custom-made by the assembly gantries on Erbzerk shipyards after a substantial bribe. It stuck in the craw to rely on alien tech, but at least it was alien tech built to the customer's exacting specifications. It was, in the shipyard's estimation, the ugliest thing that they had ever built, and they had described it in contemptuous terms that translated to something like throwback. It wasn't very hard to see why. BGEV-8 was shaped for atmospheric re-entry, water landing, and seaworthiness, all of which had put constraints on our physical properties and dimensions which had completely forbidden the Erbzerkian designers from flexing their creative muscles, especially when the clients had insisted on redundant steel bulkheads throughout, and that every single component in the ship be A, modular, and B, accessible at a moment's notice. She looked more like a seafaring relic than a modern spaceship. There had been plenty of technical challenges, too, during the design phase, long before the commission had been sent to Erbzerk. For starters, the ship's top superluminal speed was in part a function of its sublight power-to-weight ratio and acceleration, and in part a function of power to the warp engine. While BGEV-8's power-to-weight ratio was excellent, disguising that the order had been placed by a human organization required ditching the capacitors and witches and relying on the Dominion's preferred convention of a big reactor of some kind. This had limited the available power. The result was a stately top speed of 30 kilolights, enough to reach a nearby star in about 2 hours, but still decidedly pedestrian, and this had brought the supply problem into effect. Humans needed nutrients. Lots of nutrients. A crew of 7 could chew through 200 pounds of food in a week, and at 30 kilolights, BGEV-8's exploration missions were expected to take months. Months' worth of supplies would have made the ship heavier. Making the ship heavier would have hurt its power-to-weight ratio and slowed it down, meaning it would have had to carry even more supplies, which would have slowed it down even further, and so on. While the equation did eventually balance itself, the end result was a much larger, much slower, and, most importantly, much more expensive ship than Byron had wanted. The solution was stasis. Everyone's bed doubled as a stasis chamber, and the ship did a pretty cunning job of making sure that you went to bed, got a good 8 or 9 hours of sleep, and just as you were waking up fresh and ready for a new day, time stopped working for you, until the next duty officer decided you were needed again. Naturally, nobody wanted to be effectively alone for subjective weeks at a time, so in practice there were always 2 duty officers, and things were carefully mixed up so that everyone worked with everybody else at some point in the rotation. Today was Kevin's second day awake. He put Joe Gibbs to bed last night, and this morning had woken up to find Mitch Hamilton preparing breakfast for him. He liked Mitch the best out of their crew. Mitch could fix a decent coffee and breakfast, though everyone agreed that Kevin was the best cook on board. Kevin was also the best general odd jobber, inventory sorter, cleaner, and handyman on the crew, which was why he was its quartermaster. Everybody else might have had the assorted skills that went into flying the ship or surveying whatever interesting planets they stumbled across, but Byron had quite correctly decided early on that every ship needed somebody whose job was to keep everybody else comfortable, clean, and well-fed, and, ideally, well-advised. Sure, being a glorified custodian wasn't exactly glamorous, but the pay was even better than he'd been bringing in at Scotch Creek, and there was just something about being back out in the galaxy again. Something about the thrill of knowing that, for better or worse, they were doing something real, contributing to taking some of humanity's eggs out of a single, vulnerable basket. And, if he was honest, something about the thrill of danger. He wasn't a vagrant in a galaxy unaware of and unprepared for the human race now. He was a ship's quartermaster. Gotcha. I'll wake him up. Waking the other 5 was as simple as hitting the touchscreen on the wall as soon as they entered the room and selecting Wake All. Instantly, the black haze filling every bunk faded, and his 5 colleagues, friends one and all, were sitting up and looking around. "Station day?" Jenny asked. She was their biochemistry expert, a specialist whose job revolved around examining whatever organic compounds and weird alien life forms they turned up. It was a good thing she was just as capable with keeping the ship in peak condition, because their most recent circuit hadn't turned up even a single temperate world, a fact that made her tenure on this first survey vessel increasingly tenuous. Why waste crew resources on somebody who could best be used in a follow-up expedition? It would be a shame to see her go. "Yup, Mitch is shaking hands with him right now.
Today's Friday, 14:30 ship time. Coffee?
Everyone nodded eagerly and promptly set about their morning ablutions. 3 years of working together had sorted out a few kinks and sticking points there. When everyone was awake, nobody got to soak in the shower or meditate on the shitter. You got in, you did your business, you cleaned up, and if you forgot to take your clothes or towel in with you, too bad for you. Modesty was a luxury, and not one that the rest of the crew were obligated to engineer on your behalf. Everybody was grabbing cups of coffee with wet hair in short order. Mitch, however, was frowning when he stuck his head round the hatch of the flight deck.
Yo, they're refusing us docking, he called.
Everyone exchanged glances, and Monica and Derek, co-pilot and flight engineer respectively, squeezed into their seats, leaving the 3 scientists and Kevin to eavesdrop.
Did they say why? Nope, not yet. Resupply station 449er, Byron Group Echo Victor 8 again. We'd sure appreciate an explanation. Why are we being denied permission? Over. Because we're human, why else? Kevin murmured rhetorically, quietly enough so the 3 on the flight deck wouldn't hear.
You think something happened? The resident astronomer Charlie asked him in a whisper.
Yep.
Like what? Jennifer asked.
Swarm of swarms, betcha. No bet, Ryan grunted.
He was their geologist, and, as such, by far and away the most profitable member of the crew. He liked to joke that the job of the other 6 was to get him someplace where he could dig up something valuable. Yeah, never go against Jenk's nose for xenopolitics, Charlie agreed. Never go against his nose for politics, full stop, Jenny agreed.
Jesus, they're launching fighters, Derek announced. They really don't want us docking. Whoa there, take it easy, 449er. You can plainly see we're holding position. May we at least synchronize comms? Remind them that they have to under Article 7 of the... Kevin began to tell him. I know, Jenks, Derek snapped. Okay. Youch, Charlie muttered. It's cool, he's just stressed. I'll get the big screen turned on. Ryan frowned at him. Why? Because there's going to be a message from Byron waiting for us.
He was right. No sooner than Derek had bullied the station into grudgingly allowing BGEV-8 to synchronize with the Stellar Intercommunications Relay than the ship was announcing a priority message for all eyes. Monica put a few tactful light minutes between them and the station, and they went dark in interplanetary space before relaxing enough to gather in the ship's comms area. A circular lounge with furniture that folded into the deck to make room for the gym mat and load the message. Sure enough, the billionaire employer's frowning visage was the very first frame of the message. If I'm any judge, you'll have an inkling something's gone wrong by the time you get this. If I know non-humans, they're probably in the grip of a panic again. Enclosed is footage which explains why in detail, but I'll make it short. The swarm of swarms attacked Capital Station. Destroyed it, in fact. Some kind of human spaceborne special forces called the SOR got involved, and... it's all in the video briefing that follows these orders. Come back ASAP. Carter, Brown, you're clear to use the emergency recall. I want the 7 of you at our policy meeting. See you shortly. Emergency recall? Kevin asked. You heard the man, Mitch, Monica said, and tugged the chain that she had round her neck from day 1 out from inside her vest. Mitch Carter produced something from his pocket, and together they slipped into the bridge. Emergency recall? Kevin repeated. Little something the group gave us after losing all those other ships, Monica replied. There was a subtle sound, a little like somebody had thumped a bulkhead with their fist and caused the whole ship to give a dull ring. Interplanetary dark space was gone in an instant, replaced to one side by a gray and cratered horizon, and, rising above it... Oh no, Kevin moaned. That stupid son of a bitch. What? Ryan asked. He's had an open jump beacon to Earth this whole time. Our emergency recall? Yeah. What, is that a problem? Kevin spun on his heels and headed for the locker. That's between me and Moses Byron, he replied. Date point. 10 years, 2 months, 2 weeks, AV. Folktha, Cimbrean. The Far Reaches. Gabriel Ares. Jess paused and looked up from her desk. Doorbell? Are we expecting Ava tonight? I'll get it. Despite time and physiotherapy, Gabe's old injury was getting progressively worse, and hauling himself up out of his chair was still difficult, which was why he made a point of doing it every time he had an excuse. He might be on a one-way trip to a wheelchair, but he was damned if he was going to let it take him without a fight. Besides, letting Jess do something as simple as answer the door for him would have made him feel like a cripple, and he hated that. It was Ava, all right, wearing her oldest and favorite jacket, the simple rugged one that she and Adam had got together before coming to Cimbrean, with the From the Ashes patch on the sleeve. She gave him a tiny, sad smile that made him hesitate mid-greeting. Hey, Dad. Hey. Adam found out. Gabe let out a long, contained sigh, stepped forward, and gave her a hug. I'm sorry, Ava. She hugged back, tight and shaking, and mumbled something he didn't catch. What was that? I said I'm sorry. I didn't see. I was so stupid. Shh. Gabe just held her a bit longer. Eventually, she pulled away. I'm gonna go back to Earth, she announced. Try and be somebody who isn't a complete fuck-up. Hey, for what it's worth, Gabe began. Like I said, you're a daughter to me nowadays. I won't lie. When you told us, I was kinda disappointed in you. But I love you anyway, okay? I know you'll do okay. I don't know, Ava sighed and leaned against the wall. I can never seem to figure out how to do the right thing. Want some advice? Gabe offered. She looked up at him, waiting. Well, okay, it's more of a story. When Ava's expectant gaze didn't change, he nodded and told it. Back in San Diego, there was a woman, a private investigator, Terry Boone. I met her about a year and a half before the bomb went off. She'd shot an intruder in her apartment. He was on the couch, had a gun, had no right to be there. Open and shut case of self-defense. Anyway, Boone claimed the guy she'd killed was working for somebody else, and that they'd just try again, which was a serious claim. We took it seriously. Nothing came of it. Nothing we could follow up on, anyways. Nothing we could legitimately find. Nothing admissible pointed to this guy working for anything but himself, right? Ava nodded, listening. Well, my whole job was about what was admissible, building a case that'd stand up in a court of law and not get thrown out on a technicality. Procedure, right? That's the nature of police work, and it's like that for a good reason. So I found myself stuck. I believed Boone, but I couldn't continue the investigation because I'd have strayed outside of procedure. Can't do that, so I had to drop it. He sighed. A few months later, she was dead, and she was tied up in the bombing of the city. I can't go into it, but sometimes I ask myself if I could have done anything differently. If maybe I had just been lax on procedure that one time, maybe those 2 million people would still be alive. It's possible. He held up a hand as Ava started to speak. Or maybe they could have blown up 3 cities, or 10. Or maybe the whole world would have been bombed flat from orbit by the hunters by now. I don't know. And that's kind of the point. I regret not doing more for her, but I can't think of a single thing I'd do differently. You see what I'm saying? Ava thought about it, then nodded slowly. You can't do more than what seems like a good idea at the time. Right. You screwed up, you move on. You learn. You screw up again. Gabe gave her a wry smile. Some of us screw up worse than others, but there's no secret. You've just got to forgive yourself and move on. Learn from your mistakes. Right, Gabe nodded. Do you regret what you did? Yeah. You gonna do it again? Hell no. There you go then. You're a better woman than you were yesterday. Ava managed to laugh at that, though she sobered quickly again. I'm gonna miss you, Dad. I'll miss you too. Come back, okay, when you're ready. When I'm ready, I promise. They hugged again. Goodbye, Dad. Goodbye. He watched her down the stairs, then let himself back into the apartment. Jess took one look at him, stood, and gave him a hug. Are you okay? How much of that did you hear? All of it. Gabe sighed. I'll just learn from my mistakes and move on, like I told her to. That's easier said than done. Gabe just shrugged and shrank down into his chair again, rubbing his face. Así es la vida. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am the Casual Deathworlder, your host, and this has been The Deathworlders, Chapter 23, Part 3. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. If you did, please go ahead and smash those like and subscribe buttons, maybe drop us a comment down below. And let me give a quick shout out to my editor, Graygor. Thank you very much, buddy. I could not do this without you. Okay. At this point, we are exactly at the halfway point in Chapter 23. Hopefully things are going well. So, what do y'all think of the sound quality? Is it better than the old microphone? Let me know. And sorry for some of the background noises. I live right next to an airport, and it's summer tourist season, and we have huge flights of helicopters go over occasionally. It's sort of like Vietnam. And this microphone will pick those up like my old microphone would not. And that's with the gain turned all the way down. Kind of annoying, really. I occasionally have to just stop and go back, hopefully go back far enough to get rid of all the background noise. Okay, question, who's got the question? What is your favorite overall outdoor activity? Leave your answers in the comments down below. Until next time, be safe, be well. I love you all. Bye-bye. Holy fuck, I can't believe I got that all in one take. Baseball was at his side in a flash. Oh, man, brother, oof! The air rushed straight out of him, and he felt a stab of pain in his ribs as he found himself caught in the kind of crushing bear hug that might have pulped an alien and badly hurt most humans. Motherfucking helicopters.